All right, so today we have Action Club University for Business Owners workshop number 4, and it's all about marketing niche or niche, depending on where you're from, unique selling or value proposition, and 46% growth, which I always feel a little bit skeptical when people put numbers with growth, but it's really just a mathematical equation, and it'll make more sense when we get there. So let's get rolling. Oh, we've got Teresa. Let her join us, and then we'll be ready to go. All right, Teresa, you in? I'll assume she is. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can chat or you can unmute yourself. But let's get rolling. We'll start off with a little bit of a review. Remember the 6 levels to a thriving business. Our mastery, niche, leverage, team synergy, and results. And what we've done so far, you see the green areas, we've addressed destination, we've addressed time, highest value activities, that was last week, or last time we met, and then today, we're over here at the niche level. So I think one of the reasons I like to show this is because it shows us, reminds us how much there really is to make a business really run great. And so far, we've just hit a couple of these. Now, next time we get together in a couple of weeks, we'll be here with money, cash flow, profitability, and just sort of demystifying financials. So lots of good stuff today and more exciting stuff in 2 weeks. So where we're starting off today is that second level, niche or marketing and predictable cash flow, because without cash flow, we really don't have much of a business, right? I don't know if any of you have heard statistics like this, but it's estimated that about 70 to 80% of all marketing efforts fail. Does that surprise anybody? Doesn't surprise me. Well, I guess the first time I heard it, it surprised me. But when I think about it, all the little things that we try as business owners, it really doesn't really surprise me if you add everything up. And the reason that I'll talk a little bit about why 70, 80% of marketing efforts fail, but we start off really with the question, you can unmute for this, is marketing an investment or is marketing an expense? Or both? Some of you have had this before, so you might remember.
It can be both. If it doesn't yield any sales, then it's an expense.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that, you know, you can look at it that way in a dollar and cents way, but do you look at your investments in the stock market the same way? If they don't make money for you, are they an expense? They were still an investment, but it's an investment. It's an investment to try to do something, you know, better for your business. Just the same it would be if you buy some tools or, you know, office space or anything else. But yes,
right.
It's
either. Yeah, I would agree.
Depends on how you look at it.
It's an investment either way, but if the investment has a return, it's a great investment. If the investment doesn't have a return over a period of time, then we kind of write it off as an expense. Now, we might learn something, and we should learn something from it because we're always testing and measuring and improving what we do. So let me make a little adjustment here. All right. So at Action Coach, we believe it is helpful to see marketing as an investment. And when we make marketing efforts that deliver more than it costs, we call that an investment. When it doesn't pay for itself, like I said, we call that an expense. So let's talk a little bit about what niche is. Some people will say that having a niche or a niche is that you have no price competition. And I don't know that I really subscribe to that fully, but niche is all about carving out what you do extremely well or better than most, or you might not even do it better than most. You might just position yourself better than most so that price isn't the primary measure. So that's really what we want to do to have an effective business. Because if we set our business up to where we have a niche that's protected and we're not subject to low price quotes, it really helps us with profit. It helps with predictable growth, and it really helps establish our reputation in the community. So in creating our niche, there's really a few key pieces, and we'll dig into each of these here in a minute. But unique selling proposition, which is also called a USP. Some people call it a unique value proposition. It's also otherwise called an articulated argument. That's probably a little bit more European. But anyway, these are really the three pieces, USP, target market, and then we talk about guarantee because it's a good idea for most businesses, and I'll explain why in a bit, but not all businesses. So let's talk a little bit about USP. I like this definition. A unique selling proposition is a succinct, memorable message that identifies the unique benefits that are derived from using, buying a product or service as opposed to a competitor's product or service. Does that sound I guess that sounds pretty familiar to everybody, right? Any major challenges there? And then an effective USP is one that makes a statement to a customer that if you buy this, you will receive a specific benefit. The proposition should be unique or at least perceived as unique. Now, that doesn't mean that we mislead people or anything like that. That's not what we're talking about. But if your competition doesn't claim something that they do, and you claim it, as far as the customer is concerned, it's a uniqueness. And again, we're not misleading. It's just what the customer hears and sees is reality. It doesn't matter so much what the truth is when it comes to marketing. We want to do truthful marketing, but sometimes just marketing things that are of value to a customer is a great value and a great uniqueness because no one else is claiming it. And then it also has to be compelling. And what I mean by compelling is it needs to compel someone to take action. So a unique selling proposition that's of no value to a prospect, that's not really, it's not really a unique selling proposition, is it? So we're wanting at this point to get people to act. I like this visual because it really does a good job of explaining what USP really is. And I'll take this, if you can follow my cursor a little bit, the way we want to think about unique selling proposition, there'll be a homework exercise on this, a fun work exercise for you to do on your own. But the first question you want to ask yourself is, what does your brand do really well? I mean, sometimes you can ask, what does the customer want, or what does the customer want first? What does the customer want? What do you do really well? The overlap of those two and what your competitors don't do puts you in this green zone. And that's a really strong unique selling proposition. We call that the winning zone, right? So if you claim something that you do well, the customer wants, but your competitors do well as well, it may not be called the losing zone, but it's definitely the risky zone. They may or may not choose you because you're kind of in the sea of sameness. Has anybody heard sea of sameness before? Yeah, you fall into the sea of sameness where it's hard to differentiate you from your competitor. And then down here, if the customer wants it, but you don't do it well, that's a losing zone. And then up here, this is the who cares zone. So does anybody have any questions on this part? I like this graphical depiction because it makes it kind of simple. If you have any questions, just throw them in the chat or yell them out. Otherwise, we'll move on. I want to share a document with you guys. This will be in the mailer, the email that I'll send out. I'm probably showing it to you a little earlier than originally. This is as deep as the sea. This is one of those deep documents that if you really want to sit down and read a 10, 20 page overview of USP and what you do tell them, what you don't tell them, full of examples, explaining what marketing is. Marketing is about wooing customers. Customers want one thing, the best deal, and the best deal has many, many pieces to it. So anyway, this is a document that I will send to everyone. There's way too much information for us to go into it here. This is what I call the A+ student stuff. So if you want to dig in really deep to that, that'll be on the attachment email that I'll send out here in the next couple days. So there's 3 different types of unique selling or value propositions. And we touched on this a little bit. Perceived USP is where the customer perceives a difference in a uniqueness, An actual USP means that there is a strong difference. And again, the question that I ask is, does it matter? In some cases it matters, but at the end of the day, it's what the customer perceives that's most important, right? Because what happens if you have a uniqueness to your customer, but they don't know about it?
It doesn't make them want to act.
Yeah, they don't see you as any different. Let me ask you this. Does anyone believe that there are uniquenesses about their product that your prospects either don't know or have forgotten? Yeah, happens all the time. I got a couple of chat notes here. It happens all the time because customers, we're not the number one thing on their mind. So they hear what they hear, and then they'll forget over a period of time. And that's why it's important for us whenever we market our products. It is important to have a consistent message, but we can't advertise everything that we do, right? Literally everything that we do, and every uniqueness will overload people. So sometimes it makes sense to break those uniquenesses up into different sound bites or different advertising methods, what have you. So questions then, how do you build, identify first of all, and then build your USP? And just a few things here, reviews and testimonials. So think about your existing customers who are really happy with you. Do you think that they might have some ideas in terms of what it is that you do that was unique or different? I mean, can't we just ask our customers, what is it that brought you into the store, or what is it that you like most about our products? Does anyone, by the way, does anyone on our call have any type of 60-day, 90-day, 30-day customer follow-up where they survey customers? Is anybody doing that right now? Paul, I think you guys do that, right?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
So, yep. Was that Rochelle?
Yeah, I mean, I do that as soon as someone returns from a trip.
That's
I
fantastic.
follow up the day after they get back.
That's right.
And sometimes I'm calling them. Depends on. But I mean, I have an email also that goes to them. But yeah, a lot of follow up on the phone.
So when it comes to building our USP, one of our best practices for customer retention, marketing, and just running a smart business is to make sure that we're actively soliciting reviews and testimonials. This really gets into Paul's business, but we want to make sure that we're capturing those testimonials verbally, in writing, via video, so that we can display those in other forms of advertising. But at the same time, these are some of our best clues as to what our uniquenesses are and what our customers like the most about us. So if you're not doing surveys or any type of testimonials or reviews, make that a part of your process. It's best to make it simple, have a dedicated URL or digital location where people can go. Paper's better than nothing. Not a lot of people are doing that anymore, especially with us being in an increasingly touchless society with COVID-19, but do it however you need to. Follow up with a phone call. And when you get a good testimonial, ask folks right away, hey, I'm really glad you're happy and you enjoyed your experience with us. Would you mind if I shoot you a link to where you can share that with other people, because that's how people make choices about my service or product. So ask them why they bought or why they stay. And we want to, it's okay to a degree, lead the witness. You want to make sure that you're not just getting logic, best price, easy, had the most features and benefits that I was looking for. You want to try to find out some of the emotion. If you have something that really made a difference in somebody's life, because logic is how people justify decisions, but emotion is oftentimes how people make decisions. So that's step one, how to ID it and build it. Next, what do you do well that your customers care about? This is just, again, how we ID and build this. This is the first step. Read the USP builder that I just showed you. That's the long document. If you want additional ideas, I'll have a few more here, but read that document. I'm also going to This gets a little bit more into advertising, but I'll show you this page here in just a second. So here's some key steps. I'll send this out as well. 11 ways to make your ad more effective, cheat sheet, focus and placement, headlines, etc. This is just a value add. So as you're building your USP and then move forward into, okay, now what do I do with it? And you think about advertising, I just wanted to throw in a tool there. But after you identify what people really care about, your customers care about and enjoy the most about doing business with you, we want to make sure we turn these into single line phrases that can be used in future marketing. Someone has an experience with you where it saved them $30,000 or it improved their business by 25%. Those are great things to make sure that you put in your advertising when you're building a USP. Again, you want to make sure that you're really advertising the things that you're doing for customers that your competitors aren't. And I have a couple of examples coming up here in a minute, but you want to make sure that you stay away from platitudes like great service, because in terms of building a USP, everybody's going to say they have great service, right? Does anybody say we have mediocre service? No, nobody's that dumb. So we really have to stick to things that are unique. And then once you come up with these headliners or these one-liners that are your uniquenesses, we want to make sure that we measure that USP in some form or fashion. Measure it in our advertising. Measure it when we're talking with people face-to-face or prospecting. Try those unique selling or value propositions face-to-face. Ask your customers what they think about it. Hey, if I were to say that one of the uniquenesses of my business is that we return phone calls or emails within 2 hours, would you find that valuable? Or I know a little bit about Rochelle's business, but not everything. But being able to have someone to contact when you're overseas and you land there and it's after hours and nothing else is, there's no one there in the foreign country to help you. Being able to help people in that specific situation is going to be very crucial. So find the things your customers say about you. Any questions on this? I've got an action step here, but any particular questions on this? All right. Well, we will move on to the next one. So this is going to be your action number 1. Build and refine your USP. And again, I'm going to share that large Word document that has a bunch of examples in it. Write yours, test and measure. If you come up with 2 or 3 of them and you want to run them by me, I'd be happy to take a look at them. So that's action step number 1. This one's a fun one. Identifying your target market. It's actually a little bit of a play on words. Is it target market or is it target markets? Anybody want to comment on that? Do you believe you have a target market or do you believe you have multiple target markets?
I would say that we have, anyone could be a target because we sell furniture. But if we could target hotels, businesses, especially new renovations, realtors, that would be a target niche there that we could target.
Yeah, that's right. So generally speaking, most businesses have multiple target markets. And where businesses sometimes get in trouble, I won't even say sometimes, and Paul might even want to chime in on this, is they try to address all of their target markets in one message. And that's really simple to do. It's faster to do it that way, but it's really not effective because if you're marketing to everyone, you're speaking to no one. Now, it might be a little bit of an over-dramatization, but when we're not speaking to someone specifically, our message gets kind of lost. I won't name the company, but you've probably heard a half dozen or dozens of ads like this. Hey, this is Joe with XYZ Services, and we specialize in keyword specialize, and then they list like 20 services that they provide. That's not specialization. There's a way to say that that's different or better, but that's not what we're looking for. So one of the things that I want to make sure that we address is that most of us do have multiple target markets, right? Because if, like you had said, Brandon, do you think the buying motives or the needs of a hotel are different than your walk-in customer who has a 3,000 square foot home in the area? Do you think they have different buying motives, perhaps?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they're going to have different buying motives. They're going to have different needs. And we need to, I heard this said once before, is whenever you identify who your target market is, and you don't want to have like 10, it's probably better to have 2 or 3. Assume or act as though you're speaking to one specific person who you know in that market. So speak to an individual, write an advertisement or a unique selling or value proposition for that individual. And it just helps us make it a little bit more specific. So let's talk about why target market is important. I've seen this displayed different ways, and I'll just explain this in a nutshell. Most of us will spend a ton of time on copy, but the offer is typically 5 times more important than the copy. And having the target market is at least twice as important as the offer, because if you're trying to sell skateboards, for instance, and you're marketing to retirement communities, you might sell someone to people who are buying them for their grandkids, but it's probably not a great target market, right? So these numbers can be argued a little bit about what's the proportion. Copy certainly is important in terms of catching people's eye, especially in digital marketing. But I have known people who will spend 4 or 5 hours, maybe a whole day on the right picture, and then they won't spend nearly as much time on creating the right offer that appeals to the needs of their target market. Their value proposition isn't right. So does that make sense? Anybody have any questions on that one? It's more the concept of be careful where you spend your time, get your target market right first, your target markets right, get the offers to those markets right, and then work on the copy. So how do you ID your target market? Again, let's go back to our customer base. We have customers, and we may not want to think about them this way, but we should probably think about our customers as A, B, C, and D. Our A customers, they are awesome. And we've got a few of them. They're the 20% that we love to do business with. And we wish that all of our customers were like these guys. However, they were probably hard to find. And the next group is our bread and butter. We've got to make sure that we're really in tune with this bread and butter market. These aren't the really big sales. They might not be the most profitable all the time, but these are the bulk of our business. We get down here to the C's, and these are clients or our target segments of our customer base that could grow. Meaning if we spend some time on them and really cater to them, these are customers that we can probably move up to A or B at some point. But that's really where the dividing line is. If we don't grow them or we don't work on those relationships, then they're marginal. And then the last group, I didn't have a whole lot of room here, but it's develop or dump. Now, the reason I say develop is, I've heard a lot of other marketing coaches talk about you just need to fire your F customers and your D customers, maybe the F customers. And those are the ones who are just immoral, unethical, and just a complete drain. But I'm not talking about them. But the D customers are the ones who are only buying a little, and they're really not worth your time. And I just encourage each of us to look at those customers instead of saying, how do we get rid of them? Ask the question, how do we turn this into a profitable customer? And I'll give you one example. I took over a business in Jacksonville, Florida, several years ago, a couple of decades ago, actually. And we had a minimum service delivery charge at that point in time that I think was $25. And we wouldn't deliver anything under $25. So I went through a campaign with those customers, started off with a note on the invoice. Hey, Mr. Customer, appreciate your business. I'd like to stop by and see you. in the near future, we want to talk about how to better serve you. We went out and met with each of those customers and talked to them about how we were going to move to a $25 minimum. We talked about 3 or 4 ways that we could provide different services. We did a custom analysis of each of those businesses, and then we pulled the plug on the ones that were less than 25. The ones that were less than 25 originally, I think, were like 5% of our customer base. But by the time we had had that meeting with them, we had gotten all of them, but just a handful above the 25, and going after getting those people from the $5 or $10 to the $25 a week. That added about 10% to our revenue in our business. It actually was closer to 5%. It was a 5% jump in our revenue because we had a lot of customers who were in that situation. So I've just learned an important lesson back then, that let's not be too quick to cut customers who are good people and could be referrals for us. Let's talk about ways that we can develop them. Any questions on target market? And again, this gets to a bigger concept. You know, we're not after market share. You know, maybe some of us in our business are after market share and we want to have 70% of the market. I think if that's the case, none of us will be small businesses when that happens. So instead of worrying about market share, think about wallet share. Think of additional ways to serve the same client. And it kind of goes back to the example that I just used, is if you're doing one type of business with someone and you want to get incremental growth in your business, think about other products and services that are add-ons or ancillary services. You know, gas stations now make a lot of their money based on people walking into the store and buying candy bars and sodas and things like that. They don't really make a whole lot of money on gasoline. And new car dealerships don't make much money on new cars. They make their money in the service and the accessories business a lot of the time. So that's a good example of taking your existing customer base and figuring out how can I better serve this customer base to increase my wallet share and the profitability of my business, making loyal customers, et cetera. So I've got a question for everybody. If you can unmute for a second. How many of you have a banking relationship with somebody where you have some sort of auto pay or something like that on it? Auto pay, auto drafts, anything like that? Right. So now that they have you using auto pay, how likely is it that you're going to leave them like that? It's not very likely, is it? Because you gotta think of the work that's involved now to contact all those vendors that you're doing direct pay with and give them the new banking information if you were to switch banks. So little things like this are things that we think about trying to do so that we create more loyal customers. So let's talk about how to actually identify target markets. You know, again, we can take a look at our best current customers, but I want to give you some details on how to go about that. And one of the examples I'll use a little bit later is a carpet cleaning business. So when you're thinking about who your target market is, we really want to drill down onto this. And again, if we're speaking to everyone, we're probably connecting with almost no one. So look at personal demographics. You know, it could be things like, you might say within 25 miles, female, married, family of 4, works full time, age 30 to 50. And this is one of my favorite questions in terms of who are your best customers. Where else do they hang out? Do they hang out on Pinterest? Do they hang out on Facebook, LinkedIn? Do they, on the professional side, I'll have an example where, you know, are they a member of a professional organization? But where your customers hang out is extremely important. Your best customers is extremely important to find out, because it can identify for you sometimes other businesses that you might co-market with. You can look at how other places they hang out. You can find out how those businesses market and attract those customers. And it just provides a great opportunity for us to increase the value of our service. And then you also want to find out what do they care about? You know, what are their hopes, dreams, concerns? And then obviously there can be other criteria as well. Any questions on that? Any chat questions? Is there anything you think we're leaving off this one? Anybody want to add anything else? There's no complete list. This is a starter list. All right. So let's turn the page then to B2B, because some of us have B2B. So Brandon, you talked about homeowners, and then you also talked about hotels. One is B2C and the other is B2B. So with many of us and our businesses, if we have a way to appeal to B2B and a way to appeal to B2C, sometimes it's a good idea, sometimes it isn't. It really broadens our market, right? Does that create a whole new market? Can create a whole new market segment for you. So with B2B, we're looking at professional demographics, job title, job duties, industry, number of employees, where do they hang out, what do they care about, and other information as well. So let me get some feedback here. If you guys want to unmute or chat, how would you go about gathering this information specifically? Ideas and thoughts. And the same would be the case with B2C. How about you, Paul? I know you guys do a lot of work with your customers. How do you go about gathering demographic information about the businesses that you're interested in serving or serve?
So as far as RevLocal goes, it's kind of easy in one sense because they're largely brick and mortar or service-based businesses. So we walk into the front door, or we find them through various different methods of identifying service businesses that maybe don't have a storefront, and go after them that way. As far as the demographics go, that's one thing that I've been really trying to narrow down, because there's lots of people I could work with, but there's lots of different kinds of people I'd like to work with, or that I could work with, but very, a limited pool that I want to work with, or that we're a best fit for each other kind of a situation.
That I'm really glad you brought that up, and it isn't on the slide, but that's something for us to talk about. Types of customers. I'm going to talk about buying behaviors for a minute. So if you don't mind, Paul, or anybody else can jump in if you want. When I talked about A, B, and C customers, what's an A customer like? Let's talk about that a little bit, because I think it really lends well to what Paul just mentioned. So what's an A customer like? What are some of the characteristics, you guys?
They're not a time suck.
There you go. Okay, so you're hitting right on there. Time.
Loyalty.
Loyal. Fantastic.
They're trying to think of the right word, but they're appreciative of what you're doing for them.
Right.
Like they're not afraid to tell you the value that they see in your services.
Yeah, isn't that awesome?
I've got one client. He's a great client in terms of how much business he's doing with me. But he's the guy that never gives 9s or 10s on those surveys, and he's never given you referrals because it's like, yeah, I don't want to, make you think I like you too much. It's like, as long as he keeps paying his bill, it's fine with me. But I'm not going to go out of my way to help the guy either.
Yeah, it's like, come on, guy, give me a chance.
Yeah.
Give me a break. So what Paul and Rochelle are really nailing here, I wrote down time, loyalty, and revenue. It's really the interaction, right? So don't just think about the demographics and where they hang out and what they care about, but there is an other category here that's real important on B2C or B2B, and that is, do you enjoy working with them? Do they provide referrals? So those may not be criteria that decide whether you take them on as a customer or not, but that ideal customer kind of has a partnership mentality, and you know it when you see it. And the longer you're in business, the more, you know what, if I'm going to do something, ideal customer profile. If you ask me to, if you send me an email and ask me to do this, I'll send it to you. I have an ideal customer profile worksheet that I paid for, I'm going to say about 8 years ago, and it's in Excel. But it is proprietary of another company. I paid for it. It's almost 10 years old, so I don't mind sharing it. And the thing that I really like about this is it takes you through this exercise. I didn't think to include it prior to this conversation, so I appreciate you guys bringing up some of these other attitudes. And it just it helped me when I was working in a larger company really look for key things like partnership mentality, access to decision makers, will take a phone call or personal visit. It was soft things like that. And what we found is that the profitability and the retention of customers that were like that, they were engaging. It wasn't even comparable to the guys who were distant, committee review, committee decision. So we would accept or take customers like that, but we changed our marketing to find people who thought what we thought the way we thought. So this is a deep, deep well. And the goal here with Action Club is for you guys to get a B+ or a B level experience with this. And then there'll be some things that we can do a little further down the road to drive that a little further. You know, other things you ask is, what are the important pain points that you solve? What do they say when they're not happy? That's a pain point. What barriers are keeping them from addressing those pain points? These are great. These also fall a little bit into USP, because my potential clients all want to grow or work fewer hours, but the barriers are they don't have time to, they don't feel like they have time to work in their business and on their business. And they're not great at self-accountability yet. So ask these questions about your ideal or perceived target market, and that'll help you out a lot. Here's one example: carpet cleaner. The pain is they're embarrassed by a dirty carpet going into the holidays. The barriers, they don't have the equipment or the time. The actions, they have a home. The other action they might take, they do have a home carpet cleaner, and it does okay for here and there, but it just does not match the high temperature or the extraction or high agitation of a commercial machine. So this would just be an example. And you want to do that for each of your target markets. And this will be some of the best time you'll spend on your business. So therefore, you love it how I put in here, just schedule an hour. No problem, right? It doesn't have to be this week, but clarify, narrow your target market. And I say an hour because I want you to limit your time. Get a B done now, or even a C+ done now is better than an A or an A+, but you only get one of these actions done. Because if you got it done, you can always put it in some type of a tickler file or on your calendar to follow up with in 30 days when you're not getting new Action Club homework every week or two. A formula that I think I've shared this before. If not, this is the formula for change, and it applies to everything we do, whether we know it or not. But people make changes when they are either highly dissatisfied, have a better vision of how things can be, might not be dissatisfied at all, but we have to make the first steps doable so that we overcome R, which is the resistance. So it's some combination of dissatisfaction and vision, meaning vision for a better alternative, and easy first steps to overcome resistance. And the question's kind of rhetorical, where can we apply this? But where can you apply this? Who wants to give me one example of where you can apply this? How would this work, say, with a family member? Do you think that if you're trying to convince a family member to do something, that it helps to be in touch with their current dissatisfaction or vision. Or how about kids? If we want to get our kids heading in a specific direction, is it useful to make the first step easier? Like if I asked my kids to clean the whole house, not going to happen. If I asked them to clean the bathroom or something like that, that has a much higher probability. So how can we apply this in business? Do you think this could have any application in sales or getting new customers? See, this is all these things, USP, target market, the formula for change, they all work together. Now, the reason that I showed that previous slide was to set up this one, which is, would a guarantee reduce resistance? Because remember, resistance is what we're trying to overcome. And for some businesses, the best thing you can do is guarantee either some outcome or money back or what have you. You have to make your own decision whether that's best for your business. But the questions I would ask are, what are your customers' key frustrations with other people in your industry? Write those down. If it's something that you would fix anyway, if you were to mess up, then make it a guarantee. We guarantee to do these things and more, right? So an example, plumbers who are late and leave a mess. We guarantee to be on time and clean up after ourselves. Now, being on time, that might be hard for a plumber. Cleaning up after yourself, that should be a no-brainer. In many industries, the law requires you to repair, replace, do the right thing anyway. Y'all are going to do the right thing anyway. So guarantee stuff you're already doing, or at least think about it. There are times where a guarantee may not be the best option, like if you're in a project-related business. So think about this. How does guarantee impact profit? Think about this high-end cooking pots and pans company. You know, $350 for a 5-piece set. Land's End backpacks. That's not right. That should be $34. Sorry. It'd be a heck of a backpack. Anyway, versus going to Walmart and getting one for $10. Well, if your Land's End backpack falls apart, they'll give you a new one. LL Bean boots, they're $140, but if they wear out or they have a hole in them, they'll replace them. And then Tervis tumblers. The idea of a $17 cup baffles me. And you know, there's more and more companies that are doing this, and they're elevating their brands to legendary status just because they're offering a guarantee. Now, do you think at $140 a pop, LL Bean can replace a pair of boots or two? I'm going to say yeah. Do you think most people forget and don't even ask? I'm going to say yeah. Why do these companies do this? Any volunteers?
Overcome resistance.
Overcome resistance, and because it's profitable.
Right.
They wouldn't do it if it weren't profitable. I'll have to fix that $340 backpack though. That would be quite a backpack. Okay, so, there we go. I talk a little bit about ours. Once we get into the growth segment of coaching businesses after 17 weeks, what we do is free. If I can't get at least my fee covered, I coach the business for free. So that's one example. I'm going to let y'all read this later. Guarantee tips. These are just best practices, little things like getting your team on board. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. If customers are demanding guarantees, think about having an upside. If you're going to give away something on the front end, make sure they're a premium customer. For instance, this level of service comes with our money back guarantee. Got to be careful with that because then it makes your other offerings, it might make them sound like they're subpar. So just take a look at the tips. I would say go through the exercise of what could you guarantee, and then ask yourself this question. If you offered that guarantee, would it lower resistance to buying? And if you don't know, ask some people who are business peers of yours. Tell them what your service does now, ask them what their thoughts are, do it in a BNI one-to-one, and then ask them what type of guarantee would make them move forward. Another way to find out is if you're running into customers or prospects saying, let me think about it. That is code for, I need some guarantee that it's going to work. I don't think it's going to work. It could be price, it could be something else. But a lot of time it's just that I just don't believe. And you got to take that opportunity and say, well, I'm so glad you mentioned that, that you need some time to think about. I totally understand. Can you help me understand what has you hung up or what your concerns might be? That's a great way to find out what types of guarantees you might want to offer with your service. All right, so now this gets into the 46% growth. We have talked about this during the 6 steps, the 6 steps to a business, a thriving business through a pandemic. So I'll go through it kind of quick. You'll have the slides, and I've got a complimentary sheet that I'll send to you as well. But, you know, again, what I find when I'm talking to business owners is most business owners know how many customers they have. They know what the revenue is, and they know how much profit they make. Some of them know how much profit they make, but almost none of them know how many leads they got, what their lead conversion rate is, what their average dollar per client is. Most business owners don't spend enough time really looking at those things. And what I'll show you here in a minute is small changes in those little numbers can have huge, huge results. And I've seen it time and time again. So this is a repeat. It's what I just said. You know, what advertising drove the lead? Which leads have the highest conversion rate? Paul, some of the things that y'all do, you're able to actually track where the leads came from, right? That's one of the major advantages of a service that you know, I have a really hard time as a business coach, and please, I would ask that you not share this because it could come out of context. I have a really hard time with marketing that has no tracking. I have a hard time recommending that type of marketing for my clients. I'm not saying that it doesn't work, but what I am saying is choose marketing that you can measure first. And then if you want to think about branding and doing some things that you can't track quite as well, that might be a smarter way to go. Where I have seen people make huge mistakes with tens of thousands of dollars is they put a bunch of money into marketing that can't be measured, and they can't get that money back. And it isn't that the marketing doesn't work necessarily, it's that it's more branding and it takes time, and they run out of money before 90 days, 4 months even comes along. So I'm going to be biased in that regard, and that bias is based on experience. If somebody can prove me wrong, I'm all ears, but it's hard when you've seen the heartache that comes with people sinking a ton of money into marketing that they can't measure. So let's flip to the numbers. Again, this is Mike's carpet cleaning business. Number of leads, 4,000. Assume a 25% conversion rate, meaning 1,000 cleaning jobs per year. This business is wearing me out, man. 2 transactions a year. They're great customers. They always call me back. They want spring and they want pre-holiday. I go on vacation in between. You know, the average revenue, then the total revenue, assume a 25% margin after all costs, and that's what I have to pay taxes and live off of. So it's a really nice side hustle for me. Does anybody remember what the red numbers have in common? Are they?
They're all results.
Exactly. They're results. You guys are A students. So those are results. Big companies especially say, we need more customers, we need more revenue, we need more profit. Yeah, but that doesn't tell me a thing about the first step. The first step is you need more leads. Or if you've got a 25% conversion ratio, you don't need more leads. You need to work on a conversion strategy, right? So I tell people, if your lead conversion is less than 50%, be careful about investing a whole lot more money in marketing without also improving your conversion strategy. Sometimes that's USP, sometimes that's target market. You know, are you sending personalized videos? Are you sending bios? Are you sending testimonials to your customers as soon as they become a lead? Do they automatically get something that esteems you in their eyes, that lowers the resistance? Do you have them do a survey? There's so many things that we can do to really drive these numbers up. And I'll show you this, the things that we really manage here in at Action Coach is we'll take this page, which is 5 ways to increase your business by 40%, 46%. We have all these lead generation strategies, conversion, number of transactions, average dollars per sale. Here's the full document. That's just a screenshot. So I'll share this with you as well. And this walks you through the whole thing. This is me giving away the store. This has an example. Look what happens if you increase each one of these by 10% though. And I'll show you that on the other screen. But the big takeaway here is here's the worksheet that you can use to work out these numbers in your business. But here's the strategies, okay? Now, some of these strategies are 20 years old, but it's because we keep building on the list. Is print advertising still useful? Depending on the organization, yes. So you've got all these strategies here now because you're a customer of mine, and there's many, many more. But that's one place to go when your homework comes up to build the strategies. You know, what strategies do you want to implement to get more leads? What strategies do you want to implement? Now, this is just a 1% increase a month, 10% a year. At the end of the year would be 1% a month. It'd be a little more than that if you were getting 1% every month, I guess. But anyway, look what happens here. 1,000 customers doesn't become 1,100. It doesn't even become 1,200 because these numbers multiply. It's compounding, okay? Number of transactions, 2.2. Look what happens to revenue. That's 46% increase because these compound. So, and then if you go down here and add this 5th criteria, now you've got 5 compounding things that are improving. And that's where we talk about a 46% increase in revenue and a 61% increase in profits. So if you increase whatever your business is, if you increase each of these 5 ways, number of leads, conversion rate, number of transactions, average dollar per sale, and profit margin, by an average, just an average of 10% in a year, that's what's going to happen to your business. It's just math. Doesn't have anything to do with my business or yours. It's just math, okay? And then this leads us to the question that this is this is the homework. Well, you can pull this out. It's on the sheet, so I won't go into it too deeply. Here's the key, and I mentioned this before. When it comes to marketing, test and measure. Again, don't invest huge gobs of money into things that can't be proven, or at least don't have a tracking mechanism. Because if it doesn't work out 100% the first time, that's not the end of the game. Sometimes it's just a minor tweak that you need, and sometimes it's going to take 60, 90 days before you're going to know whether something's working or not. And I just say don't bet the farm on your first effort if it doesn't have a guarantee. So action number 4 is take a swing at your 5 ways. So from module 1, schedule an hour to develop these over the next 30 days, identify 2 or more strategies to use with each of the 5 ways, and start to drive your business. I've used this slide before. Warren Buffett was 50 years old before his curve really took off. So most of us have plenty of time to make massive improvements in our business. We may not have the goal of $85 billion of net worth. We may. But the point is, it's never too late to start. And it isn't necessary to do extraordinary things to get extraordinary results. It is necessary to do specific and consistent things to get extraordinary results. So consistency beats intensity all the time. Think about water running down a riverbed over a period of years or decades. It's going to create a deep crevice. All right, so if you increased your profits What could you do with that? Could you buy more resources that would save you 10% of your time? If you're working 50 hours a week and you're able to save some of your time, you're able to save, say, 5 hours a week, 250 hours a year. Would you reinvest that into family? Would you reinvest the money that you make, the additional profit, into software, or a fractional partner on your team, or marketing, or a virtual assistant, or eliminate startup debt, or put money in savings? Invest in yourself as a CEO with programs like this. Most of the successful business people in the world spend 5% or more of their revenue on personal development. The really successful ones spend more than that. Maybe there's a correlation there. So there's lots of things that you could do with more time and more revenue, right? So here are the actions that we talked about. And, you know, I've gone through this kind of quick. We want to talk about USP. We want to talk about target market, or we want to develop our USP, target market, guarantee, 5-way strategies. That's the homework. Let's have a little bit of open discussion. Maybe first question, if everybody's off mute, is, you know, if there were 1 or 2 things that stuck out to you that were valuable or interesting, you know, what comes to mind? And then I want to talk about anything y'all have a question about.
I think the idea when you're crafting your message to do it as if you're speaking to one person. I think I was listening to probably a Storybrand podcast, and
Yeah,
the person was talking about you know, when he thinks about his customer, his ideal customer, he's trying to think about everything that happens in their life. You know, from the time they wake up till the time they go to bed, and when he's crafting a message. And you know, so he's really trying to put himself in their shoes and speak to them individually, like you said.
you know, I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's a really great point. And Building a Story Brand is a phenomenal book. I might have it on my shelf right here. Building a Story Brand. Yeah, here it is. So this is what it looks like. It comes with, this is I don't know, it's about a $25 book. If you buy this book, and I don't get paid for it, if you buy this book, it comes with a digital download where it will help you build your unique selling brand, your unique selling proposition, your target market. It will walk you through this whole process. And it's about a 4 or 5 page PDF. The whole idea with Storybrand is the idea of the hero and the villain. And our goal as marketers, don't make our brand the hero. We want to make the customer the hero. So when we talk about customer testimonials, we want to talk about the steps they took and the smart decision they make that led to this change, to Paul's point, in their life. I'll give you one other example. I used to work for a company called Cintas, the uniform people, many, many years ago. And let's face it, rental uniform programs aren't that exciting. But when my sales and my success as a sales rep started to change, is when I did what Paul was talking about. And instead of just asking people about their current uniform program, I'd say, tell me about your job in the company. What's really fun about it? What's really challenging? What would you say is the biggest challenge that you have in your company or your business? And for almost everybody, it's going to be time. So if you can find out what's causing problems in their life, and they say time, and like, wow, I'm sorry that your job's doing that. How does that impact your personal life? Then you personalize it. Now I've made buying a uniform program that is simpler and easier to administrate. It's not only going to impact his business, it's not only going to save him time, but, well, if you were able to make that change in your company, you know, how would that esteem you in the eyes of your boss? You know, you really have to understand, like Paul said, their dynamic in their life. So thank you for bringing that up. Does anybody else have an example they want to share? Something that caught their eye or their ear as a good takeaway?
I would say something similar to what Paul said, because when we run ads, we at least from Montana does most of that, but we never really target one person. We used to, when we were selling other things, we would target single moms, and things like that, which I think worked pretty good. But with furniture, maybe we need to do a better job of painting a picture, especially on unique pieces, and maybe creating that vision.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a neat, thanks for sharing that, Brandon. You know, it depends on your business, but it can be far more effective to have different ads that target specific segments and run those ads in consecutive weeks or days instead of running the same ad over and over again. Now, on one hand, you want to create an image, you want to create awareness. So it can have a detriment there. But I have seen that work where if it looks different and it's advertising a different buying motive, you'll hit another segment of your buying market that you hadn't hit before, because most of our clients have multiple buying motives. And if they hear multiple things that we do or problems that we solve, that gives us one more opportunity to do business with them.
Can you give an example, Mike, of somebody that, I don't know how well you'd be able to do this, but that has taken that exercise of think of something that you would already do and make that a guarantee. That idea of, because I really like that. That's something I've never heard before. Where, you know, if a customer came to me and complained about this, what would I do about it in response to that complaint, and then go ahead and make that a guarantee. Have you seen anybody really make some significant guarantees and seen some results from that? Like an example that.
Yeah. So, well, I won't
that
use
you
the
could
name.
share.
Yeah. Well, one particular one comes to mind is actually a story of a plumber, and I'm not so sure that it was the guarantee that that did it, but there were a couple of things that we decided to guarantee in that business. I'm thinking of another one in the back of my mind that I'll add in a minute, but we added a little bit of humor with it, and you know, no plumbers crack, and we don't leave a mess. So we guarantee those two things, and you know, that drove up the number of responses. It wasn't an ad; it was actually in a website. So when we were doing this was actually a little while back. Search engine optimization wasn't maximized quite to the way that it is. Another story that comes to mind, this goes back a little while, is a moving company. So what's the worst thing that can happen when you're moving?
Stuff breaks or gets
Stuff
lost.
breaks. The second worst thing is your stuff isn't there. Sometimes
Right.
that can be worse. So we did a survey of a moving company's customers, and you know, past customers, like the last 60 days. And with a moving company, that's a whole lot of surveys. And asked them what was most important to them. And the survey, the things that we got back were about stuff not being broken, about their stuff being there when they got there, so they didn't have to sleep on the floor the first night in their new home, which happens in a surprising amount. And then I think the third thing, well, it's not necessarily damaged, but it's their furniture and belongings getting dirty. So those three things, when that company repositioned their ad, think of it this way: a lot of advertisement in the old Yellow Pages and in paper print, they're really just resumes. 24/7 service. We're bonded. We've been in business 20 years. It's blah, 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 blah. It's the same stuff, and it's got 27 bullet points. But the thing that the customer cares about is that you don't lose their stuff, you're going to guarantee that their stuff will be there when you deliver it. And here's your two-step process for doing it. So you might have a click in your website or your advertisement that explains your process for making sure that logistically their furniture shows up on time. And if people don't want their stuff to be damaged, have them click on this and it shows how you protect each piece of furniture or belonging. So those are two. There was a plumbing one, there was a mover, there was a builder too. It was actually a remodeler. I don't know how I would apply it to guarantee, other than he just started putting a satisfaction guarantee. If you're not 100% satisfied for the work, with the work that we do, we'll replace it or refund your money. Now, what he did is you don't wait till the end of the project to do that. If you're going to offer a guarantee and you have a project level service, it's really important to get them to sign off at each stage of the process. So what else is good about that though? If you have people sign off on each stage of the process.
Oh, if you're a contractor,
Yeah.
you can collect payment at those times. That's one thing.
I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah. And then at the end, when the customer
Your
has
punch list
complaints,
is very small.
the list is very small, right?
Sorry.
And I went through this process with our builder, and I found it kind of annoying on one end, but every step of the process we had to sign off. And I knew what they were doing, so I appreciated it as a business.
Yeah.
Anyway, hopefully, does that help a little bit? So those would be a couple of examples. I'll give you one more. When I was in the uniform business a few years back, we added a guarantee to our service agreement that the customer would receive A, B, and C, or we would make it right away, or some wording like that. And our business took off probably 20 or 30%. I mean, because nobody else was guaranteeing those things. And you say, well, then everybody else will just do it. 5 years later, the competition was not doing it. 10 years later, the competition wasn't doing it. And when we first offered the guarantee, the general managers of our individual Cintas locations were, oh my gosh, you can't do it. We're going to lose customers left and right. No, it was just the opposite. We became a better company because of it. So that was probably the first time that I ran into that example. So I've not had any examples where it hasn't helped. I guess I just haven't measured it. Haven't measured it that often. It's part of the 4 or 5 things that we do. So any questions that anybody have? Any of these areas not as clear as you'd like it to be? Remember, you've got this big old document coming for your, insomnia night when you're having trouble sleeping. This is really detailed. I mean, you're going to pull, it has questions in here. It has examples and case studies. I'm going to page it on. Yeah, Domino's talks about their USP. So there's some really good stuff in here I'd recommend. All right, so we're coming down to last call. Any other things you guys found valuable or questions that anybody has? So how was the pace today? Too much information, not enough information, or just about right? If it's too much, I definitely want to know.
Mike, I think if anyone on here wasn't on your first call where you went through the 5 ways, that may have been a lot.
Yeah.
But it was fine for me because I've, this is my second time hearing that information. But I would imagine if a person hadn't heard it before, that may have been a lot. Okay.
Tell you what I will do is I will send out a link to a presentation of the 5 ways. So, I'll send out a link to this as well, so you can go through it more slowly. But thanks for letting me know that, Rochelle. The 5 ways, it's really getting into the details of how that works. When I work with a client on the 5 ways, it isn't the only thing we do in their business, but I have complete confidence I'm going to be able to help them grow their business rapidly. The details are what we have to figure out, but there's so many options that with most businesses, we can certainly find growth and profit. I haven't had any yet where we couldn't do it. So thank you. Any
I just
other
think it's such
questions?
great information. That's why I think it's such great information. That's why I said it, because it's,
Thank
and
you.
it really, it's pretty amazing.
I didn't give it its due. I know Brandon had not seen that before in that level, and Adrian perhaps, but the 5 ways is a mindset where we really try to look at the growth of our business as not being Mount Everest. And we're really talking about 1 or 2 changes that we execute consistently and get a little bit better every month. And then if we stick to that, it's like most other things in life, right? We're going to have amazing results. So thanks again. All right, so here's what's coming up. On the 18th, Action Club University for Business Owners number 5, Cash Flow and Financials. You may think you're going to need to drink coffee for that. I doubt it, but if you feel like you need
That's
to.
exactly what I was thinking just now. I was
That's
going,
gonna
oh
be
my
a
God,
goner.
am I going to be able to stay awake in this time?
Yeah, I don't think so. Here's the ugly truth is, among many things, we have to be able to get and keep customers, and we have to make a profit. I mean, and financials are not typically that exciting, but one of the reasons financials are not exciting are because many business owners have never been taught how to really look at their financials and don't really understand how to mine their financials for details that can rapidly improve their business.
That demystifying part is the part I'm looking for.
Yeah. So, I'm not going to break into long discussions of financial ratios and things like that. We're going to talk about the basics, about the absolute importance of having a fantastic bookkeeper. And that doesn't mean fantastic because they say they're fantastic. It doesn't mean your mother's brother's cousin's best friend. It means a real bookkeeper, or that you're well trained on it, but having somebody else look at it periodically. And then understanding how to read your financials. There's a whole lot more in it. But when I did this in November, I had 4 people ask me if we could have another bonus session on it. So I did. Now, you guys might be way ahead of the curve on those guys, but I want to make it real practical and actionable so that it's useful. And just remember, December 8th, Growth Club is coming up. I'll have more information about that on my website soon. But Growth Club is really a great follow-up to Action Club, because you can take everything that you're already working on and you'll have an opportunity to work on your vision and mission and priorities. You'll get another review of the 5 steps and your specific growth strategies. And then we'll also talk a little bit about some other levels of the 6 steps to grow your business. So that's coming up soon. I'm going to offer you guys a real discount on it. It's a half day, get great reviews on it. So if you know anybody else who is looking to have a big impact on their business, like I said, I'll have more information on that soon. All righty, folks, anything else? Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for contributing. And, I tell people often when I remember, just be as great as you are and you'll be fine. All right. So signing off. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
See you, everybody.